everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today, Joe Quesada Day, so we're taking a look at Ash issue number 2, cover dated January 1995. Event Comics. What is Event Comics? Well, it's been said that back in the day, Joe Quesada tried to kind of form a partnership with Image Comics and bring his talents there, kind of doing the same deal, parlaying his mainstream work at DC and Marvel, gaining some popularity, and then, you know, doing some creator-owned stuff. The Image guys wanted to bring him in, but he wanted, apparently, this is, you know, I'm not 100% sure on this, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Todd McFarlane who was saying this. He wanted to be considered like at the same level as the founding fathers, I guess, trying to start his own studio, maybe what would have been called Event Publishing or whatever under the Image banner. Didn't quite work out. That's not what the Image guys were looking for. You know, they were just trying to pull in Quesada more as a same situation as a Dale Keown or Jerry Ordway or Sam Keith, right? Kind of the next wave, but not necessarily founding fathers involved in, I guess he was looking already to get involved in publishing, which he would later do over at Marvel. So maybe, you know, those were some of his aspirations there. In any event, that didn't happen. So his partner, Joe Quesada, and his partner, Jimmy Palmiotti, who is the inker on this and writes the book with Joe, started Event Comics, their own kind of version of Image Comics. So when I look at Ash and I go through this book, it definitely has a Quesada doing Image kind of vibe, right? It's not exactly the same kind of artwork he was doing over, say, at DC or Marvel back in the day on X Factor, some Batman stuff he did. It's very extreme in the hatching, as you can tell from the cover, right? It's very 90s. It's very Image inspired to a certain extent. The compositions, the big, you know, crazy shots, again, the insane hatching. He's definitely doing a more hatched Image style here, I think, than he was doing at Marvel or DC. And a great kind of fold out cover here, seeing the two sides of the same personality. Ashley, the main character who turns into Ash, I guess is what he's called. No one's called him that yet, and I don't think they ever will. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see as we move along through the miniseries. It's kind of a 90s version of the Shazam trope of character turning into another through fire, right? So the whole conceit of it, of the Ash comic, is that the character of Ashley is a firefighter who turns into this creature or this character who wields fire and has fire-based powers. So there you go. Pretty cool cover, though. Let's have a look inside. So we already talked about Joe Quesada, Jimmy Palmiotti both writing. Joe obviously is doing the penciling, Jimmy the inks. Ruben Rude is doing the colors here. I usually like Ruben Rude's colors, the stuff he was doing over at Image. There's just something not quite as appealing here on the Ash miniseries. I'm not exactly sure why. It's a serviceable job. It's fine, but it's not. There's just something about it that just kind of catches me wrong, I guess. Chris Eliopoulos is doing the lettering. I'm surprised because it doesn't look as good as when he does it on Savage Dragon, which I reviewed a lot of. So this might be at a point where he started using you know, computer fonts or something. I don't know. I mean, that makes sense to me because, yeah, this different looking font here is definitely computer generated. So that's probably what happened here. So following last issue, we're reintroduced here with the bird's eye view of our character Ash and this weird lady demon. I don't know how to describe her that we encountered on the Brooklyn Bridge last issue. So no establishing shot. You have to have read issue 1 to know where this is happening, because this whole double page spread here, not many backgrounds going on. Not that I'm complaining, but maybe, again, with that Image kind of feel that he's given to it, he wanted to dedicate the whole double splash to some action, which is fine, and which he does really well. Ash, I find as a design, very 90s, kind of dated, but somewhat interesting. You know, I'm not wholly against it. It's pretty cool. It's very Quesada-ish, right? The big gauntlets and the big hands and stuff. Those are kind of tropes that he brings to a lot of his designs. Remember Azrael? But the design of this antagonist, villain / girl, whatever she is, just the look of her. It's some weird New York lady with big earrings stuck to this alien demon body. It's just an odd choice to me by Quesada for our first antagonist. Not very memorable, and just kind of a Jersey Shore lady with a demon body. That's, I guess, how I describe her. The art is great, though. You know, he's used the double page splash to give us some big shots, but he hasn't cheapened on the storytelling. We've got tons of panels on both these pages here, so at least that. Just, again, skipping on the background, but adding some interesting kind of abstract elements, some speed lines here and there. This is a cool panel. Works in a sound effect right here, but it's kind of hard to read, honestly. Maybe because, I don't know if it's because of the coloring, or how small the kind of indentations are with the letters. It took me a while to figure out this was foom. I was like kind of looking for boom, to be honest. QUESADA is always very cool silhouette shot and very kind of extreme, an image kind of silhouette shot, I guess, is how, again, I describe it. But he uses all these different elements for the layering, the smoke down here, the kind of rough Kirby crackle that's going on in the background stuff. Very cool. Some weird color holds here, again, with the color, something that just doesn't quite work for me here. Not sure it's very effective. Bit of a B story here, the old trope of the drunken either hobo or wanderer, you know, getting beat up by some ruffians, but we're in the Key West, Florida for this one, so I guess they got ruffians down there as well. But this old trope that we saw in Spawn a lot, at least a couple of times in other books, you know, just kind of a little bit tired and played out. Not sure what they're going to introduce, because really all that happens is just before, you know, the bum gets hit over the head, there's an explosion that happens, and then we're back to Brooklyn on the next page. I just want to mention, though, this sound effect here, kind of paneling effect with the image inside the explosion, very well pulled off here. Faboom works a lot better than it does here. What maybe could have helped here is, you know, you either change the color on this extra bit here, not make it the same kind of color scheme as here to separate it a bit, or do the opposite and leave that like this, and, you know, maybe no color in here, right? You're kind of trying to create a flash or an explosion, so maybe just the orange explosion and everything else is whited out, you know, and that would help kind of maybe define the letters a lot more. The silhouette black, white to contrast there. I think that would work. That's Ellen Yindel from The Dark Knight Returns, right? If you read that one. Joe Quesada is obviously, like a lot of 90s guys profess to have been highly influenced by Dark Knight Returns. Makes sense. So I feel like this is kind of an homage to that, inserting... This is a detective character in Ash, right? Her name is not Ellen Yindel, but definitely has pretty much the look from Dark Knight Returns that she had. I like this little bit of storytelling here. I think it works really well with Johnny Blaze kind of guy. Doesn't he look like Johnny Blaze from, you know, Spirits of Vengeance in the 90s? But yeah, he's first introduced here as kind of a spook, kind of CIA type character behind the scenes, right? The shadow, the glasses, you know, kind of mirroring her look in a weird way. But right away, QUESADA establishes that she's kind of, he's piqued her interest and she's kind of looking in on him. And then the close-up shot of her while he says this line here, which I'll read. His dialogue, because I have to assume they're setting up something about Ash's origins, but I can't be 100% sure, but it just feels like that here, where he says something, you know, Mother One, yes, confirmed. This was a phoenix. I repeat, this was a phoenix. So he's talking about the event and the fire and the explosion and all that stuff from the conflict that we had at the beginning of the issue, the end of issue 1. And he's referring to it as the Phoenix. So, you know, is he a spooky government guy who knows something about this? Probably. So they are introducing it here. I hope this pays off later on. We'll find out. And just one last shot of her. Could be from the front or from the back. Don't even know for sure. And the character, the spooky character walking away. So nice, just nice little sequence here that works really well. And then back to some extreme foreshortening, image style, finger pointing. So Ash comes out of the water, Ashley rather, transformed back to his you know, civilian identity, still wearing the Spawn shirt. That's fun. And then here there's a weird sequence where he sees himself in the mirror, and then, you know, he sees himself again like he was in the beginning of issue 1, where it's seemingly he'd been burned in a fire, right? And then there's this weird sequence that, you know, he looks at his arm, something is way wrong. I was kind of confused when I got here, but as we go through the sequence, it's kind of clever how he did it and how it establishes something about his past. So we go, obviously, the color change you see is pretty obvious here, right? Kind of going into just gray, brownish tones, I guess is how I describe them. And basically a bit of about Ashley's upbringing as a kid. And, you know, something's wrong. He gets the flashback. Just from this, he establishes, you know, great worm's eye view of your father. Doesn't look like a very friendly guy, so introduces the idea right away that he's probably, you know, very authoritarian, possibly abusive, right? Just from the angle, the foreshortening, you know, the pointing right at you. Great shot. So he's grounded or something. He has to stay home and does escape because he's doing a gig with his buddies. He's in a band. And I like the sequence here. Very true. I play music, and Joe Quesada, I know, plays guitar in bands and stuff, so it makes sense that you incorporate something like this into the storyline. But just how accurate the guitars are. Apparently singing Stairway to Heaven And on the way back home, house is on fire. Dad's still in the house. Ash runs to try to save his father, right? But as he gets close, there's an explosion. Love this shot. QUESADA clearly tried something here. I think just the basic drawing of the panel with the silhouettes flying through the air works really well. The hat, an extra little element there just to make it a little more interesting. Works really well with the insert panel, the character jumping away from the explosion from the fire. But would have worked even better if it was more kind of just stark black and white. Again, like before, I feel like it's a little hard to read the kaboom, right? And if at that point, if it's that hard to read, maybe you should just make it a panel, right? And have a sound effect or something, or maybe have just the kaboom down here, you know, so it's consistent and not, you know, having to stretch the letters. Sometimes the lettering makes it a little harder to read. And again, just coloring wise, not enough contrast there. And so again, in the flashback, another cue to the flashback is the rounded off corners, right, that we see on the panels. And we get a shot of some of that fire burning him on the arm. And now all of a sudden the scar is back. And he says, you know, my scar, it's back. And that whole loop of storytelling from this non-burned arm to the one with the scar here, you know, now makes sense. This is a fun sequence as on TV we get these two characters here. Clearly, I guess 1940s, really old school versions of Superman, Clark Kent and Lois Lane, right? He does call her Lois and she does call him Clark, so it's kind of a fun thing. Always respect artists who can pull off the blinds, shadow kind of dark detective kind of look, right? What do you call that? Noir, right? Or noir in French. To have the balls, I don't think I've ever drawn a character in like a room shaded by blinds like this, where you just have to have the balls to just draw a slashing kind of, or a few slashing lines across someone's face or across someone's body. You know, if I really had to, I guess I'd have to come back and look at someone who's a master like QUESADA, or Frank Miller's really good at it, obviously. That's probably who QUESADA looked at. I'd need reference for that for sure, at least to start it off. It's just something I've never had the balls to do, or just to try for, I guess. It's never really come up in any storyline I've drawn, not yet. On their way out from seeing their injured friend, Ash, and her name is Leah. He asks her out on a date and then realizes that he doesn't have his motorcycle, right? Because he drove off with it when he was the Ash character, and he's going to have to go to the pound and find it. Realizes the motorcycle, you know, the police hadn't contacted him because as Ash, he had actually melted or burnt down the license number on his motorcycle there. So there's no way they could have contacted him. And he's also starting to realize, you know, as seeing, you know, I melted the fence. He sees that as his hands, as he's pulled away, moved on, come back, the fence is melting. So if I can do that, then I can do this, right? So he's starting to figure out his powers. It seems like he can use them when he's not just the big kind of Ash character, is what they're kind of implying here. So slowly but surely he's learning how to harness the stuff, even though he's still, his memory's still pretty fuzzy about what goes on when he's the Ash guy. The Ass guy. So Mike Mignola guest pinup. Of course, as is customary in the 90s, using it as an opportunity to pitch your own character to a new audience as well, which, you know, not going to fault him. It's an idea that makes sense. And Mike Mignola pretty good, you know, with a character like Ash. We know that QUESADA already, with the heavy shading and stuff, is very influenced by Mike Mignola. He's said it and is more than open about it. And so I think the Ash characters kind of look really works under Mike Mignola's pencil as well. Looks really good. The gauntlets and the decorative elements seem just a little more old-timey when Mignola draws it somehow. He almost like retroizes the look. I don't know how else to describe it, but works really well. And this is Mignola before he really started to simplify and kind of tone down the artwork. Not that it's bad, but it's, you know, still fairly 1 foot in the superhero world, right? Even though he's doing the heavy shadows and stuff, there's still a lot of detailed elements and a lot of control, which he's kind of let go of. And, you know, you can see more of that on Hellboy, the direction he's going to go in. You know, Hellboy was a pretty hulking big figure when he started out. Here it sure seems like he's got a pretty big arm and triceps and stuff. At this point, you know, he's got a really skinny neck and really kind of this is a bottle-shaped shoulder, but like even more so now when you look at, like, you know, the more recent Hellboy stuff. So just a pretty cool, this is, to me, feels very manga influenced as the sequence here. Again, muddy colors kind of don't work for me, you know, make the backgrounds and things too kind of murky. But, you know, the speed lines here, jumping on the motorcycle, the extreme. Again, there's tons of them in this issue. I'll point out more of them as we move ahead. The worm's eye view that QUESADA is just a master at. It's one of his favorite angles, I feel like, and he does it a lot in this book. And here's one where it's very successful with the motorcycle. Obviously, the shape of the panel, very manga, right? And all these speed lines. Speed lines. This whole thing could almost work in a manga comic. This is a 90s image style comic, so of course we got to have the 90s image style trope of the street ruffians or gangs accosting our hero. In this case, they are the Pinheads. Very similar. I'll give you examples, you know, to Spawn #1, Shadowhawk #1, Pit #1. Each issue, there's, you know, a confrontation between our hero and a gang, street gang. In this case, of course, the transformation into Ash happens pretty quickly as he's threatened with a knife here. Love the shot here of him just trying to, at first glance, trying to hold back what's going to come out, which is basically, you know, they call it out as hurling or vomiting, which is what it looks like, but really it's just the power of the ash is being expulsed from his mouth, basically coming from the inside. So here it's almost like he's holding it in and then just has to let it go. And of course he's going to transform into ash and kick their ass in this sequence here. Get a nice cool shot of our hero, tons of dark shadows, very QUESADA-esque for sure, and a nice little sequence here where he you know, we're starting to get more and more ideas about his powers and how they work. So not just, you know, able to project fire, I guess, but in this case creates a fire blade, which is an interesting kind of idea, even, you know, even though he can do all these other things, and basically cuts this guy's weapon down to size, and then the fist punches him in the face. I like this shot here, this reaction shot from the punch, the missing teeth and all that. You know that's what's coming, obviously. Then there's kind of an interesting sequence here. I don't know if this is like a deadline page. Kind of feels like it. This one, not so much, because there's a lot going on. But then all of a sudden, we just get a real quick shot of the top part of our hero, the shadows on the wall here, and this guy shooting Ash over and over and over, right? So obviously, these are all statted panels. I feel like that's a page you can get through very quickly. And boom, we get, I guess, what we'll call the money shot and the money shot sequence, I think, of this issue. It is the end of the issue pretty much, but just what a great splash page here. You know, he's decided not to put any kind of dialogue that can get in the way of the art. You do see kind of this, the fizzle, the sound, I guess he's trying to get across. Some sound effects finally that are easy to read, and the sense is that the bullets just kind of melt as they come into contact with Ash here. Very cool. He uses all the smoke coming off of those bullets, you know, boiling and melting, almost like Todd McFarlane uses a cape, right? It's almost kind of the same idea. It's like those 90s guys were all trying to come up with a visual motif or element that they could keep using over and over to create that layering and that depth in the image. And this is just kind of a weird variant of Todd McFarlane's Spawn cape. Ultimate Warrior, same thing, right? That comic book, like that idea of these tassels almost. These look almost more like tassels than anything else. And they just create layering. Again, I was talking earlier about QUESADA's mastery at the worm's eye view. Here's a super excellent one here. Interesting too, because, you know, I'm starting to notice that the colorist is throwing in, you know, I don't know if that's penciled in. The colorist has a guide or something, or he's just really good at guessing and looking at how QUESADA, you know, depicts anatomy and musculature, but it really works and blends in well with the space here and the negative, you know, negative positive kind of effect between the two works really well. And then boom, another amazing shot of Ash, worm's eye view, looking up at him, looking cool. Again, very 90s. This whole last sequence is basically, right, kind of everything you need to know about the 90s. And the introduction of, you know, these soldiers back here, all in shadow. Obviously, we're going to find out more about them next issue. Feel kind of imagey once again. I feel like these guys are going to look like generic kind of Wildcats, Rogue Team 7, blah, 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 Wildstorm kind of characters. I could be wrong on that, but we'll find out next issue anyways, if I'm right or wrong. And the broken border here on this last splash page, the twisted, tilted angle, slightly, I feel, kind of curved perspective, or almost. The height of the 90s right here. And it's not an image book. Although, again, it could fit right in, right? It basically is an image book, I should say. Certainly feels that way. All right, guys, that is it for my review today of Ash issue number 2. If you're watching and you're still subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate all your support and that you're still checking out the videos. I really do. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second and you know, really helps the channel out and helps us grow. If you're interested in my comics, Big Baby and STARCRASHER, let me know. Write to me and we'll work something out. If you like what you see here, please tell your friends, let them know. Spread the word about Big Baby reviews. It helps the channel out, helps us grow, and helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So everyone, again, thank you so much and have an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents STARCRASHER one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.